Welcome to App Stories, a weekly exploration of the world of apps. Today's show is brought to you by Linode, Pillow, and Woven. I'm John Voorhees, and with me, of course, is Federico Viticci. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You know what? We have got more widget talk today because after having gone through and read your entire review, I got to thinking about how widgets have changed the way you and I use our phones and for that matter, our iPads and even our Macs, although I suspect you haven't played with widgets on the Mac that much yet. But I do
No.
think it's worth kind of revisiting this because, unlike, especially you, I think, since you've been, obviously you were working all summer long on your review and into the fall, you've got a head start on a lot of people in how these things have kind of worked their way into your workflows. And I'd like to kind of hear how it's changed the way you work, and I can share some of my stuff and give people some tips maybe on how they might evaluate and look at how widgets fit into what they're doing on their phones.
hmm Okay, so where do you want me to start? From the first page, I guess, of my home screen.
Yeah, and I guess I want to start conceptually more than anything else. Like, how has it,
Okay.
even before we dive into the particular apps you're using, because one of the things that I've noticed with myself is that widgets have really surfaced certain apps that were on my phone, but I didn't use a whole lot necessarily. I had to remember to go into them. And now with things like stacks, I can kind of idly flick through a stack and see just, information like the weather, or maybe have food noms there so I can do a quick log of what I had for breakfast or whatever it is. It kind of surfaces those apps that I otherwise would have to go looking for. And I think for certain types of apps, it makes a lot of sense to do a particularly good job on the widgets and I'm thinking about things like habit tracking apps in particular, because, one of the things about anything that's kind of related to forming a good habit, whether it's tracking your food or your exercise or whatever it happens to be, it helps if that stuff is really easy to use and not tedious to input the data. And having it on the home screen both reduces the friction of having to go find the app and remember, but it's just right there. It's like its own little reminder in a sense. You don't have to put a reminder in your task list. It's just there the next time you open your phone, which I really like. I mean, it's subtle enough that it's not in your face beating you over the head with like a notification coming onto your phone. Instead, it's just there when you kind of open your phone and want to check the weather, and you're like, oh yeah, I should log that that walk I went for yesterday in my exercise app or something.
Yeah, so I've definitely noticed how there's some utilities and some apps that I'm using more as widgets on the home screen, and which were like I could have used I could have used them before, but because the widget system was different in iOS 13, it wasn't exactly convenient to use them. And I think a good example of this is what I'm doing with the music widgets on the home screen. And I kind of want to start with those.
Okay.
And especially I want to talk about the Soar widgets. So Soar, and every time I mention it, people are like, hey, I can find it on the App Store. So it's SOOR.
Right.
It's a third-party Apple Music client that is only on the iPhone. I think an iPad version is coming at some point. And it's been around for a while. In fact, I did review the first version of Soar a couple of years ago, I think maybe last year, on Mac Stories. And I noted how it was a really good-looking application, bunch of interesting ideas, but it was limited by the fact that it lacked some of the native Apple Music features. And also, like, I was in the habit of using the built-in music app on my device, and I didn't want to stop. But with widgets, Soar was able to find a spot not only in my regular usage of apps, but on my home screen. And that's because the developer of Soar has been able to build these two different kinds of widgets that I use on a daily basis. One of them is the Now Playing widget, and the other is the widget that lets you start playing an album or a playlist or a magic mix directly from your home screen. So these two widgets have basically revolutionized how I listen to music on my iPhone. The Now Playing widget, which in addition to showing me the Now Playing item, also shows me what's coming up in my up next queue. That's the first widget at the very top of the first page of my home screen. And that slot, which is a medium-sized widget, is actually a stack. And inside the stack, the second one is another Soar widget, the favorites. And the favorites allow me to start playing as a magic mix, which will be the equivalent of a smart playlist on shuffle for different types of music I want to listen to. I have a magic mix for shuffling Oasis songs, and I have another called Genius Mix, which is sort of the equivalent of what used to be an iTunes feature back in the day. It gives you songs you, in theory, should like, and you can do this by putting together multiple filtering criteria inside Soar when you're making a magic mix, and it's really well done. And when you tap it from the widget on the home screen, it starts playing in the background, thanks to a clever workaround that the Soar developer figured out. It doesn't even launch the main Soar app. So without widgets, I don't think I would have used Soar. I would have just stuck with the native music app on my device. But because these widgets are something that Apple doesn't offer for Apple Music, I now have this sort of like split setup where the widgets are powered by Soar, and because they're there, I find myself using Soar more and more, and it's actually a very capable Apple Music client. But at the same time, when I want to browse like my Listen Now page or the top charts or search, I open the standard music app. And I think this is a very good example of functionality that was there before, but it required you to open a standalone app. And now I can enjoy that functionality while remaining on the home screen.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, it really makes the apps like Soar an adjunct of another app. It's a complement to the music app. You don't really have an issue, it doesn't sound like, with the music app itself. It's just that Soar adds some extra utility on top that makes it something that you use on a regular basis, I guess.
Yeah.
This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Linode. Whether you're working on a personal project or maintaining enterprise infrastructure, you deserve simple, affordable, and accessible cloud computing solutions that allow you to take your project to the next level. You can simplify your cloud infrastructure with Linode's Linux virtual machines, helping you develop, deploy, and scale your modern application faster and easier. Quite frankly, everything that could make your workflow faster and easier is worth checking out. Linode has 11 global data centers and provides 24/7 human support 365 days a year, so you never have to get stuck without support. Night or day, holiday or not, Linode are there. With no tiers or handoffs regardless of your plan size. And you can check it out for free. Get started right now on Linode today with $100 in free credit for listeners of App Stories by going to linode.com/appstories. In addition to shared and dedicated compute instances, you can use your $100 credit on S3-compatible object storage, managed Kubernetes, and more. So head on over to linode.com/appstories and click on the Create Free Account button to get started. Go there now and check it out. Our thanks to Linode for their support of the show.
I also want to mention how for music, I'm currently playing around with a bunch of other ideas. So the third widget in the stack is actually a shortcuts widget. I've created a folder for music shortcuts, and these are quite simple, but they basically are a way for me to do something that Apple for some reason didn't do in the music widgets, which is I just wanted to have 4 shortcuts for quickly shuffling a playlist. And so I've created 4 separate shortcuts that all they do is a play music action set to shuffle a specific playlist. So I have my family playlist, my best of 2020, my all-time faves playlist, which is something that I've been building for the past year that I will eventually share on Mac Stories, I think, and my guitar throwback playlist. This is actually an Apple Music playlist I recently discovered. Super good. Guitar throwback. Really well done. And I just wanted to have a quick way to shuffle these playlists. And you would think that this should be something that the music app itself should offer as a widget, but it doesn't. And I figured the quickest way for me to do this is just make 4 different shortcuts make them colorful, give each one a different icon, and they work perfectly. They start shuffling playlists in the background. And finally, I'm also considering the Albums app. So Albums is an album-focused music player that scans your music library and lets you listen to albums in full. We covered it on Mac Stories at some point, I think. And Albums has two interesting widgets. One is called Quick Actions, and Quick Actions you can configure to show you different modes for rediscovering full music albums in your library. One of them is the High School action. The High School action, it's really clever because it uses your birth date to figure out when you were in high school and therefore which albums came out in that period of time. And, a lot of people tend to have very fond memories of the music they listened to in high school because those are the formative years when you develop your music taste. And it's kind of eerie. It's so well done. Every time I start the high school mode in albums, it's like, oh yeah, totally. I was listening to this in high school. So that's fun. And there's also like a Today in History quick action that lets you listen to albums that came out today in the past, on the same day in the past. So really well done. And the other widget is Random Albums. And this just loads a collection of 4 random albums from your library. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I think that the shortcuts one that you have for the playlists is really interesting because those are super simple shortcuts, right? I mean, that's what is it? It's one action,
One action,
right?
yes.
But what's powerful about it is that in the past, you would either have to swipe into the Today view and access the shortcut there, or you'd have to open the Shortcuts app. Instead, it's right there on the surface. And I think that it seems like a small thing, but I think it does make a big difference when it's right there on the home screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Pillow. Getting a good night's sleep is underrated, but with a little help, it can be life-changing. Pillow is an all-in-one sleep tracking solution to help you be more aware of your sleep patterns and discover what might be affecting your sleep quality. I've been really busy lately, and it's led to some pretty bad sleep habits, so I've been using Pillow to get me back on track. If you have an Apple Watch, tracking your sleep is as easy as wearing your Apple Watch while you sleep. Pillow will track and analyze your sleep automatically. One of Pillow's most beloved features is its ability to create detailed heart rate diagrams of every sleep session. You can even compare your sleep quality to your weight, steps, caffeine consumption, and many other health metrics to discover what might be affecting your sleep quality. Pillow can optionally record sounds you make during sleep too, from sleep talking to sleep apnea and snoring or unexpected noises that might be affecting your sleep. A lot of users have been surprised by the results. Pillow is also very privacy-minded. All of your sleep and audio data is encrypted and stored locally on your device and your iCloud storage account using end-to-end encryption. Pillow doesn't have user accounts, so you can use it anonymously and it doesn't collect or send your personal data anywhere else. Naps can boost your focus, creativity, and overall well-being too. If you're working from home, you can take advantage of naps using Pillow's Power Nap mode. If you need an alarm, Pillow can handle that too. It can wake you up using your iPhone, Apple Watch, or iPad. If you got watchOS 6 or newer installed on your Apple Watch, the latest update of Pillow uses the extended runtime to minimize battery consumption on the Apple Watch too. Pillow has a new home screen widget that tracks your sleep analysis and daily sleep goals too. Pillow is available on the App Store for the iPhone, Apple Watch, and iPad. Discover all of Pillow's features at pillow.app. Again, that URL to learn more about how you can get your sleep back on track, pillow.app. I'll put a link in the show notes too. Pillow, sleeping better made simple. Our thanks to Pillow for their support of the show.
I also wanted to mention task management, which is always a fun topic because it's an ever-changing field for me. I don't think I will ever be, and I think I've accepted this. I don't think I will ever be satisfied with any specific task manager. However, I think it's a fun topic to talk about. So last month, a lot of people seem to believe that I was back on Todoist as my default task manager. And I kept saying, well, I'm just testing this because of the widgets and because of things that I need to cover in my iOS review. and I knew that it was a test. I wasn't convinced that I wanted to use Todoist full time again. So I have gone back to GoodTask, which is the reminders-based client that I used to use months ago. And the reason I'm doing this, it's because the GoodTask developer is doing some incredible work in terms of widget customization. GoodTask
Definitely.
was already one of the most flexible and to an extent maybe kind of daunting to use because of all these settings and these options that you have. But definitely one of the most flexible task managers before iOS 14. And now with the work that the developer has been doing with widgets, it's just incredible. You can configure your GoodTask widgets to load any reminders list or smart list, which is an actual smart list that you can make in GoodTask. So you can load specific subsets of tasks. But what's really awesome now is that you can make custom widget themes. So if you, like me, are using the incredible Club Mac Stories wallpapers made by Sylvia that have a specific background color, you can now make a GoodTask theme for the widget that gives you the illusion that the widget is blending into the wallpaper. And so I now have a small calendar. GoodTask also offers a mini calendar widget. And I have this small calendar that looks as if it's blending into the wallpaper. Like you can see the monthly calendar and you don't see the borders of the widget because the color is the same. And also I have another GoodTask widget in the bottom right corner of my home screen that shows me the 2 upcoming items that are either overdue or due today. This is a smart list that I have in GoodTask called Today and Overdue. And also those task titles, they seem to blend into the wallpaper because they have the same color. So the widget customization that the GoodTask developer has been doing lately, really incredible. And the fact that you can combine smart lists, custom themes, and widgets together really takes personalization to the next level. And it's also interesting because I am using reminders again, but I'm also taking advantage of this power user utility. And it's a very fun sort of mixed setup where I can take advantage of the native like default stuff that Apple does for reminders. Like I can save reminders using Siri or via my HomePod. And it's super fast.
Right.
And I don't have to use any custom syntax, right? Like say in OmniFocus or in Todoist, all those additional commands. I can just say remind me to.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't have to use reminders. I can use GoodTask. But if I want to, I can also open the Reminders app and the data is the same. And with widgets, I don't even have to open the app anymore. I can just take a look at tasks directly on my home screen. So really interesting what widgets are doing for task management, especially when they take customization into account.
That is really interesting. And it's amazing to me that GoodTask is built basically on a foundation of reminders because reminders has gotten a lot more capable over the last few years, but it's still pretty simple compared to what you can do with GoodTask. And those widgets are really something else. It's really gotten me looking at it again too. I have not made the move to switch task managers yet because I've been kind of busy lately, but I plan to do that relatively soon. And GoodTask is right there at the top of the list of the ones I want to think about. One of the things that is attractive to me too is that now on the Mac, for instance, there are Siri suggestions for adding reminders from mail, for instance, which is really handy. And there are assigned tasks both on iOS and the Mac, which I know you and I have in the past used a shared task list for certain things we work on together. And I always found it really, I never really liked the fact that things that you were supposed to do were in my task manager. And I'm sure you didn't like having my things in yours. And with assigned tasks, you can actually just assign them to someone, which I kind of like. It makes it a little clearer. It's a little less like a shared grocery list in that way instead of it's more like an actual assigned thing that's for a particular person to do.
This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Woven, the all-in-one calendar that's perfect for busy people. One of the things that's changed over the course of my years at Mac Stories is that I have many more calls and online meetings than ever before. Combined with personal obligations on my family calendar and lots of things to do every week, It's easy to feel disorganized and like everything's spinning out of control. One of the things that I've found very effective in combating those feelings is maintaining control of my calendars, which is exactly what Woven is all about. Woven syncs all of your calendars in one place, including your Google, G Suite, and Microsoft 365 accounts, so you can see all of your time, both personal and professional. Woven builds scheduling links directly into your calendar so you can use one-off scheduling links. You can quickly time block your week using Woven's smart templates so you can plan your perfect week too. Woven also has built-in analytics so you can easily calculate where you're spending your time so you can make time for what matters the most. You really need to check this out. Take control of your calendar and improve your workflow. And as a listener of App Stories, you can try Woven for free for 21 days. Go to woven.com or click the link in the show notes. Again, that's woven.com to take back control of your time. Our thanks to Woven for their support of the show.
Should we talk about time tracking?
Yes, I wanted to mention that you may start sensing a trend here. Developers are adding
Yes.
options to use custom colors for the background of your widgets. And I wanna believe that I'm playing a very small role in this because I've been asking all my favorite developers, hey, can you please add an option to use a custom color so that it? I think it's important because people are rediscovering, right, the idea of personalizing their home screens and the idea of using a custom wallpaper. And I think it's a very nice visual effect when a widget is blended into the wallpaper. And so Timery, which is my favorite time tracking utility that uses Toggle as the backend service, recently added an option to use a custom background color for your widgets. And as you can imagine, I'm now taking advantage of that. So I can see my currently running timer as basically a string of text, a string of colored text on top of my wallpaper. And you don't see the borders of the widget because it blends into the same color. And same with on the second page on my iPhone, I have the reports widget. So it looks like when you swipe over there, it looks like there's a bar chart with different colors and time reports, and it looks like it's part of the wallpaper. Super nice. So the option of having reports and starting timers and seeing the currently running timer on the home screen has meant two things for my usage of Timery. One, I'm using basically no custom shortcuts for Toggle anymore because Timery can do everything I want. And second, I'm using I'm opening the Timery app less often than before because I can just see my currently timer there. I don't need to open it. And I guess I open the Timery app when I tap on a save timer. It launches the app, but then I immediately close it. And the reports are right there. So I don't even need to look at the stats inside Timery because the charts are right there on my home screen. So, and you may think, well, this is bad for the developer. No, it's not bad for the app because I'm still using widgets that come from Timery, that are powered by Timery. But I think it's fascinating in the context of how are widgets changing the way that we use our devices. And this is another good example. I'm opening the app less, but I'm still relying on it thanks to the widgets.
And I mean, I know you use Timery a lot in the past, so maybe this is not the best example, but I think for some developers, it's a way to get people's attention and to keep their attention more than they might otherwise be able to if someone had to tap through on an icon. Yeah, Timery is something, it's an app I use too, and I have been thinking about my Timery and Toggle setup ever since the widgets came out. And I think what I need to do, this is another one of those weekend sit down for an hour top projects that I have to start, and that is simplify my timers so that most of the ones I use most frequently all fit in a widget, because I really would like to manage starting and stopping and tracking all that stuff more from the home screen than going in the app. And it sounds like, based on what you're doing, that should be something that I could absolutely do.
Yeah. I want to mention how I'm still figuring things out in terms of other apps that I want to use and other widgets that I'm interested in. I'm just not sure where I want to put them. So one of the apps that I've been really, really into lately is Craft Docs. I think we're gonna have
It's very interesting, isn't it?
It's very interesting, and we're gonna have a review on Mac Stories very soon, I think. Craft is like, imagine if Notion and Apple Notes had a baby and it was a native experience for iPhone and iPad. It's kind of like
say.
that. It's a very native experience, and it's a note-taking app that takes some of the best aspects of Notion, like those content blocks and the ability to. They have an amazing implementation of backlinks, which if you're the kind of person who listens to App Stories as well as the Cortex podcast featuring Mike Hurley and CGP Grey, and you ever heard the term Zettelkasten, I think as soon as I said backlinks and I say automatic backlinks in the latest version of Craft, really, really well done. If you want to build like wiki style interlinked pages, it's super well done, and the UI is so polished. And so I've been really into Craft lately as a potential alternative to Apple Notes, as a way to collect links and to build like documentation. And there's a Craft widget for reopening recent documents, and so I need to figure out where I want to put it if I want to use it. I'm also in between calendar clients at the moment. I want to see like what is because I realized that my calendar needs are very simple, right? I don't need something super fancy. And so I kind of been exploring like what are some options that are not the, Fantastical or the calendar app that I can maybe reconsider, maybe I can play around with for a while. And so I'm playing around again with like Calendar 366, and there's this other cute calendar app that has the icon of a small animal. I think it's like a ferret or something. It's not a squirrel. It's not a mouse. It's called Ermine. It's Ermine.
Oh yeah,
Ermine. Ermine.
Yeah, Ermine. Ermine is like a ferret.
It's like a ferret. Okay, so it's an actual animal.
Yeah.
An ermine. Okay.
Yes, I think that's the name of the animal.
And they have really nice calendar widgets, so I'm playing around with that. What else? Oh, okay. So I have a really particular problem. And then I swear I'm done, because otherwise I can just go on and talk forever about apps. So if you listen to last week's episode of Mac Stories Unwind, you know that one of my recommendations was a book. I've started reading, I guess, 40 years later, Cosmos by Carl Sagan.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And so I have this very particular problem in that there is no great application for saving and viewing quotes, highlights that you save when you're reading a book. Now, I could use BookTrack. BookTrack is an excellent utility for keeping track of the books you're reading or you want to read. And BookTrack, it lets you save quotes from books. However, the quotes section is kind of hidden in the detail page of an individual book. And I guess what I want is just a utility that shows me like, here's your book collection. And when I tap on it, it's like a beautiful grid of all the quotes. Like I want something that is faster and where the quotes view is bigger. It's like a dashboard with all my favorite quotes, right?
You want the lookup of a quote app, right?
I
want something like that
kind of quotes, or I want. I don't know what I want. I just want something that where my quotes are front and center, not tucked away in a subsection of a book page, like it's the current implementation in BookTrack. And yeah, so I guess if App Stories listeners have any recommendations for apps that let me save quotes from books and that organize them by book, so I can tap on a cover and I see the quotes. And then I guess the app has to support iOS 14 and the latest Apple devices. Let me know, I suppose, because I guess I could use the Kindle app instead of Apple Books, and I guess that Amazon has a better implementation of looking at quotes and browsing them again. But I really prefer Apple Books. I've been using Apple Books forever.
Yeah, the Kindle
app is not great, and I just want to use books. So a great application for saving and retrieving and browsing, because like quotes are useful because only if you can look at them again and if you can memorize them
Right.
and remember them, right? So yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, I'll just
Interesting. I have a million questions for you about craft, but I'm going to save them because I think you and I need to spend some more
Yes.
time with it and do
Yes.
a whole show
Yes.
on that maybe, or incorporate it somehow, because I think it is an interesting app, and I would say that it has that block architecture that's similar to Notion, but that's one of the aspects of Notion that I can't stand, and I think Craft has actually found a way to do it in a way that actually works. I want to switch gears really briefly, Federico, and talk to you about the iPad and the Mac because, it's disappointing that the iPad widgets are stuck in the sidebar and the Today View. And as a result, I have not used them a lot. I mean, I have widgets in there. I have my weather in there, and I have timery widgets, and I have a music widget in there. I have things in there, but I don't find myself going to it nearly as regularly or tweaking it nearly as much. And the issue is really the same on the Mac. In fact, on the Mac, it's worse because in Big Sur, which of course isn't out yet, but based on the latest betas, it is off in a side panel. It's in the notification center. The notifications and widgets have been collapsed into one panel. It used to be that there was a segmented control up the top, and one of them showed you your notifications, and the other one showed you your widgets. Now, the widgets are below the notifications, which are all also stacked by app, which is really nice. But just focusing on the widgets, you can, depending on the size of your screen, you can only see a few widgets at a time. And then you have to scroll. And the biggest problem I have is that you can't stack them. There are aspects of the way widgets work, which will be in my review, that are superior in some ways to the way it's set up on the iPhone or the iPad. But you can't stack them. And with the limited space you have, because you've got the notifications above them, having the ability to stack them would be really nice. And it's, in a sense, it's even worse than the iPad in terms of being out of sight, out of mind, because not only is it limited to a panel, but it's a panel that's off screen that you have to actually click in the menu bar to reveal. Whereas, of course, on the iPad, when you go to your home screen, you do have some of your widgets sitting there showing. So it's interesting to me that widgets are so useful on the iPhone, and then it's this slope that trails off where, they're pretty good on the iPad, but it'd be so much nicer if they're on the home screen. And the Mac, they're also, they're identical on the Mac to what you see on iOS and iPadOS. They're built the same way. They do the same things, but they're hidden away more. And I think we need Dashboard to come back, but Dashboard not hidden away like it was in the old days too. But right there, why not have widgets right on my desktop? I've got folders and files on my desktop. I should have widgets there too.
Yeah, I agree. It's too bad.
The other thing about the Mac, I will say, is that there are far fewer system widgets
really?
for the Mac than there are on. Yeah, there are a whole bunch. And it's not one of those things where you can say, well, there's not this one because this only makes sense on a mobile device. There are things that are missing, like there is no battery widget, for instance. I mean, yes, you can go to the control center, which is new on the Mac, but that doesn't, you've got control center on the on iOS too. So there are things. There's no maps widget. That's another one. But yeah, there are far fewer system ones, and I've seen some interesting third-party ones that are coming out when Big Sur launches. But I think it's going to be up to third-party developers to really make something of widgets on the Mac, because Apple hasn't really gone very far yet, and they are a little too hidden, I think. All right, Federico, I think we will stop there for this week. This is going to be an evolving process. It sounds like your home screen is quite a bit different than it was when we talked about those several weeks ago. So maybe we'll revisit that at some point in the future too. But there are so many new apps coming out, and I think we'll see another Apple event hopefully in the next few weeks before Thanksgiving. I think so. I mean, we've got to get those Apple Silicon Macs out there, and we've still got Big Sur to come, and that's going to mean a whole bunch more updates and apps there as well. So it's going to be, I think, this lull that we've been in for the last week or so is going to start picking up right again very quickly, right into the end of the year. But In any event, you can find me and Federico over at macstories.net, and Federico is at Viticci on Twitter and Instagram. That's VITICCI, and I'm at John Voorhees, JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.